All
I'll
right.
be in the back. I'll be like,
All right. All right. Three,
I'm gonna put my thumb.
2, 1. Hello, welcome to Circuit Circus. I am Trollman, and I'll be teaching you guys today on how to use Raycasts. This will be an intermediate tutorial, so buckle up. If you already have some knowledge about CV2, then you can go ahead and watch the video. If you don't, I suggest watching other videos and learning a bit more about circuits, or taking a class to learn the basics and the fundamentals of circuits. This is your Raycast chip. Usually, they come in different shapes and forms, like the sphere Raycast or Raycast in general. Now, your general term for a Raycast is an invisible line that obtains certain types of data. You can see here, on a chip we have an input side and an output side. On our input side, you'll see that we have our start position and direction and max distance. Now, the start position will be the beginning area where the point will start traversing. The direction is the direction you want this imaginary line to go towards. So say, for example, I want it to go upwards. I'll put the y-axis to 1 and it will only go upwards. Our max distance will be determined on how far we want this ray to go. So in most cases where you're using let's say some sort of punching mechanism, you would put like 1 meter for 1 meter's distance, something like that. Now for our outputs, you can see here we have a boolean, a player, object, distance, hit position, and surface normal. Now our hit port, data port, is dependent on if the Raycast has hit something. Now, if it's reached a certain point, it will say true. If something's obstructing its point of view, it will say true. If it's not obstructing its point of view, then it will say false. In addition to that, if it's obstructing its view, then it will take the data of whatever it's trying to, whatever is blocking its signal. So in this case, let's say for a player, for the player port, it will specify the display name of that player, while the object will display the object that it's hit. So for example, maybe this Raycast goes through some of the walls in this room. It would say maker pen or maker pen object. Now the distance is the current distance or the point where the line has hit. So it will give a distance from where the laser is till the point that it's been obstructed. I'll give you guys a visual representation of this in a moment. Now, our hit position will give us a position of where the Raycast has been obstructed. So for example, if this Raycast has been obstructed by that wall over there, you may not see it, but if it was to be hit over there, it will say on a certain area where the three coordinates are for this hit position. So we'll give it based off an X, Y, and a Z axis. Now, here's something special about this chip is that we also have configurations for this chip. So if we go ahead and open up our configuration while selecting the Raycast, you'll see here that we have two options. We have ignore players and ignore objects. You can select both, which wouldn't do much for you, but you would usually want to do one. Ignore players, as it already says, it will ignore any player that tries to obstruct its value. So if a player is going in front of that laser, it's not gonna register it. It won't appear onto the player. The same goes for ignore objects. Maybe you want it so it only detects players but not objects. So now it'll only say hit when it's a player. When it's a player trying to obstruct its view. Now, for the for those who are visual learners, I'll go ahead and start with the visual explanation of this. Here's our visual representation of a Raycast. This laser pointer will act as our Raycast. The line itself is going to be the imaginary line that we choose to use. As you can see, if I drop the maker pen, the line stays there. I can also make it so it disappears, but that's out of the question. This is just to represent a Raycast. So you can imagine a Raycast just as a simple line. And you can see here we have our start position connected to the current position of the laser pointer, and the direction will be wherever the forward which way the laser pointer is facing. So you can see here, if I hover here, you'll see it's one. Yeah, it's at 1 on the z-axis, so it will be pointing towards the z-axis. Now you can see here on the Raycast, we don't have a hit, we don't have a player, nor do we have an object, but the distance is defaulted to 1. We don't have a hit position or a surface normal. Now, watch what happens when I place my hand in front of this laser. So, what should happen is that when the false is there, place my hand there, should turn to true, because I'm currently obstructing its view. You'll see that the player here is troll, but there's no object obstructing it, so it will say invalid object. It will also give me a distance here, which is around 0.5 meters, so about halfway. The hit position, which is the current vector of this player, and then the surface normal, which is just a rounded up version of it. Now, if we wanted to do objects, so like a cube, I would place down the cube, finish editing, hover over, we'll see that the hit is true. And then if we go over to object, you'll see maker pen object. Now, again, with the configuration tool, if we want to ignore objects, then we're going to see that it says false, no player, and no object, even though there's an object obstructing it. Now, if I place my hand there, it'll show true, because I'm obstructing it, and if I go behind, it'll still show true, and also me, because it completely ignores any objects. Now, mind you, it does come in order, so whatever hits it first is what is going to appear there. So usually, if we change this Raycast to turn off both, you'll see here that it's first the object, but the moment I put my hand in front, the object disappears, but the player appears. So only one item can be hitting, one physical object can be hitting a Raycast at a time. This is very useful for systems like mute guns, jail guns, etc, etc, gravity guns. You would generally use Raycasts for these types of things. If you're trying to select a certain player, or trying to do some sort of hand movement that suggests you trying to activate something. And that will be it for your tutorial on Raycasts. Tune in again for another episode of Circuit Circus, and I hope to see you later. Bye-bye!